Oh my goodness, y'all. Would you look at that? The auction that we were running for the AI custom studio build took off in the last 10, 15 minutes or so. Made a post about a couple hours ago that we had 90 minutes left, and we have our winner. It came right down to the wire. Let's see, this is real time, y'all. This is not scripted. This is having a little bit of fun with an auction inside of our community. Check this out. That was exciting. For context here, y'all, we had a 24-hour auction starting at $1 on Wednesday this week for a custom AI studio build, which I'm going to walk you through in this implementation power hour. Like the basics of getting started with Pickaxe, getting started with your own custom GPT studio. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what the action was here. And we're going to keep this conversation rolling as we continue to build out custom GPTs and studios because this is an incredibly useful to know how to do if you do any sort of coaching or consulting or educating and helping other people with resources that are AI related without necessarily needing to give people access to your own ChatGPT account and being able to embed them in certain places. So we started this auction off as just a fun way to see where things would go, to work directly with me to build out a custom AI studio. Bidding started at $1. And the auction started yesterday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And as this call was kicking off, ended 11 a.m. Central Standard Time today on the 20th. And so the way that this auction ran was there starts off with a bid at the floor and then ends with the highest level bid. So the winner is going to get, and that winner is going to be Ellen. So congratulations, Ellen. We'll be reaching out to you over DM to set up our initial onboarding call. We're going to work with you directly one-on-one to build the Pickaxe Studio, but also the custom instructions that you can then apply to ChatGPT or other large language models like Claude, Gemini, that sort of thing. So we're going to work with Ellen, the winner of this process, discovery call, framework extraction, custom GPT development, studio setup, and then we're going to asynchronously work together and collaborate over 90 days to make sure that this is set up and rocking and rolling. I hadn't planned on putting this offer out there outside of this auction. Maybe if it's of interest to other people in the community for extra help in this regard, I'm open to it, but I don't have anything planned right now. This is stuff that I have set up in the past. And so what I want to share, this is relevant to today's call. This is just a fun way that we're coming right off the end of this auction. Examples for what you can build with an AI studio. These are things that I've built myself. There's a ton of other examples out there inside of the Pickaxe community alone. But Pickaxe is a model agnostic tool that will allow you to build custom GPTs. You'll see that in today's call that you can use to plug in with OpenAI, with Anthropic, with Gemini and Google and other models there. We have our winner tuning in with us here as well right now. So this is exciting. But you can create things like sales call analyzer tools to helping you with book more appointments for your sales calls. I've built custom brand blueprint GPTs that if you know what our market sauce buyer blueprint is, like a version of that, but a different variation for a PR agency that I work with that they incorporate into their client onboarding. And so they do a discovery call with their client. They have a Fathom recording. They send me the Fathom recording, and then I run that through a custom GPT that I developed that gives them this like 6 to 7 page customized blueprint output that they will then use as the starting point for getting their clients activated. So it's a super useful tool and helps their clients get a lot of clarity in the process of booking more press for their business. We've also had another one that's had a lot of success in the buyer discovery and evaluation generation of these reports for real estate agents that will use these tools as a resource to demonstrating how they are leveraging AI to help with identifying and creating campaigns that will attract the best buyers and sellers to the listings that they're looking to sell. And they obviously make a commission off of that if you work in real estate. So winning the listing is the first step before you can make any commissions off of selling a listing. And it's a competitive market out there in real estate. And so this tool has been used to help agents close. Just with one reported example here that I shared, using the studio that we developed with a partner that helped them close an additional 100K plus in commissions. That's obviously going to vary depending on who you are, what you do as your business, but just an example of how these tools applied in your specific workflow can be super impactful. Another member of our community I worked with over the past 6 months to develop a few different tools and GPT resources One of the ones that we started with was around their YouTube script writing. And so we took some of their existing YouTube videos that had the best amount of views on them and the best sort of like structure and style for how they wanted to write scripts. Then we trained a custom GPT inside of Pickaxe and then also directly inside of ChatGPT on following that outline and that process for writing scripts in their voice, in their style, in their format. And those videos that they've produced since doing that scripted model did extremely well compared to like how their channel typically does with videos and views. Really good example there for creating consistent outlines and script formatting in your tone that you can train ChatGPT or a Pickaxe Studio to do. And then another real estate example before we start to dig into some more things here for helping you ultimately like book more listing appointments from the real estate perspective. There's a lot of ways that you can take one variation of one of these GPTs that we'll be talking through today and then apply it to your own business or industry. So I'm going to walk you through inside of this call what that's going to look like. But you can see how the auction ran out here. We started 24 hours ago. Robert kicked us off with a bid for 75 bucks. Then Ellen came in with an $80 bid to knock Robert out of the bidding. Robert came back. This weekend was about 20 minutes ago at this time, but 10 minutes before the auction actually ended, like I was surprised. Ellen, you're getting a steal here for 80 bucks to walk away with this, what we're about to build together. I was going to do it regardless. It could have been $20 as the winning bid, and this would have been fun for me to build. I enjoy doing this type of stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun to work with you, Ellen. So congratulations. I think this is all like 10 minutes before. And so Robert jumped in. Ellen was watching the clock, 125, Robert 130, Ellen 150, and then Leandra, who I know has been developing GPTs for her business, jumps in 2 minutes before the clock stops at 135, bumps it up to 175. Robert jumps in at 200, 225, 250, 275, 250, 255, 60, 65, 70, and then the winning bid, 400. So again, congratulations. Ellen, I know you're just posting some of the stuff right now. If you want to come and share a little bit about what the studio that you're going to be wanting to bid, I know that you commented right here. Still a steal at 400, you say. I would agree. This is a fun experiment to see what do you guys think this stuff is worth. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways that we can use AI tools and leverage this tech in our business, but we also want to have some fun with it. And if you guys thought that this auction was fun, if you guys would want to do another one like this, let me know. We're doing it to have some fun building a custom GPT studio. With that said, the rest of this session for the AI Implementation Power Hour is going to revolve around getting started with Pickaxe. And if you're inside of our community and if you use Pickaxe, I provided a few different resources that can help you with getting started with a Pickaxe. We have other training on our YouTube channel and inside of our community on what Pickaxe is and ultimately what you can do with it. The example for Pickaxe is my tool of choice right now for building these AI studios because unlike a ChatGPT account where you can build custom GPTs, you are limited in terms of where you can embed those GPTs if you are trying to put them behind a paywall, if you are trying to give them access inside of like a client's portal who has like a membership already that's gated and they'd want to incorporate an AI tool into that to keep them all in one place. You can do that with Pickaxe. You're a little bit stuck in terms of how you can do that right now inside of ChatGPT. Having more extensive knowledge about how to plug in and create your own AI assistants using OpenAI's API and that sort of thing. It can be a bit of a roadblock and a learning curve to set up your own custom studio from scratch. And so Pickaxe is an accelerant for this process. And so the example Ellen is sharing it with me right here that she's going to be building. And again, Ellen will connect on DMs after this and look at booking a call for what this will look like and getting things onto the next step. We'll probably get started next week since it's the end of the week right now. We're going to be building a Radical Reflections Legacy Planner. It's not a thing to party. Cool. Awesome. So there's going to be a whole product that we're going to be working on with that, Ellen. Again, I'm super excited about it. And we're going to be building your own branded AI toolbox, your own custom AI studio. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what Pickaxe is from the start or how to set up a studio. And I'm going to use a really simple example of how you can go through the whole studio process, but we're going to be doing more advanced mastery trainings on the AI studio process as a whole here in the community out of Gen AI University on School. So I would highly encourage you to join us on School and be a part of our community and subscribe to our membership if you want to be a part of these live calls come 2026. We have them open currently to everybody that is part of the community in terms of our migration right now as we're moving over from our old home to School. These live calls will be eventually more selected specific just to our active paying members, which some may end up on YouTube, but this is where you get it first. Pickaxe Studios. All right. A very simple way that I can demonstrate what a studio is thinking of it in terms of what is if you had a standalone website that had one tool that you could give people either free access to or access to a multitude of tools. Okay. There's a few examples in here that you can see on my screen right now. I built more studios that we're not going to go into the next pages here, but I made one example of a spin-off studio that when you subscribe to Pickaxe, you can actually access these templates. This one's a Microsoft Quantum avatar. Gave it a name for a tool that I cloned and I made in its own studio. That this is what you'll see if you own a studio on Pickaxe. You'll have these pickaxes, which are the AI, the custom GPTs that you're developing are their own individual pickaxes. This quantum sauce pickaxe is currently listed inside of this studio that I built. And if I click into my quantum pickaxe, quantum sauce is this one's name, I can see like the cost it's cost me to generate and use it. And when you have an account through Pickaxe, it just charges like basically the same cost as what you would go directly to any of these models. So you're paying per use. And so if you don't use it as much, your membership or subscription will be far less than if you have 1,000 students using this all day, every day. It's going to be drastically different. But you can also see like the response history. So you can monitor what your clients are doing. You can address like how the actual conversation is being generated. When I am creating a new pickaxe, or quickly jump back here. If I had a blank studio, which in Pickaxe, quick sidebar here again, just to get how did we end up getting here in the first place? You can make just a new pickaxe, which is just a tool, but this is going to show you how to build a whole studio. So you can put tools inside of studios. You can have a hammer, and then you're going to put it inside of your shed that holds a bunch of hammers, right? The pickaxe is one particular GPT. The studio hosts one or more GPTs. So I can create a new pickaxe or I can create a new studio. When I create a new studio, it's going to create this type of interface. And then I will create a new pickaxe inside of the studio. I hope that's clear. If it can be a little confusing depending on how familiar you are with like this platform. If this is your very first time getting into it, go through it once or twice, it becomes much easier to get this type of stuff set up. As with anything, you get better at it with practice. But if I go in and I open up an existing pickaxe that I've made, you'll have the interface for what does this pickaxe do, right? And so pickaxe, you have a prompt, and then you give it a role, you give it a prompt frame, and we're not going to go through this entire thing. But I think this is one that I was giving away for anybody that would like is starting a pickaxe. You should be able to access this and clone this so you can like literally start with one of these and then modify it yourself. There's configuration elements to it. And this is what Ellen and I will be working on mostly is like, what do we want this first GPT to do? What is the prompt and the role and the structure of this GPT going to be? And then, for example, you can test it inside of Pickaxe as well. And so if I'm going to go with the SideHustle example, I can give it a document upload, and there's actually quite a bit to walk through here. And so I'm going to like just talk through a lot of the ways of getting the studio up. And that's why I would encourage you, if you want to actually go deeper on this type of stuff, to tune into our community, because we're going to be doing a few different like mastery workshops on Pickaxe specifically. I'm just going to give it a basic description of what the brand or service offer is. And again, this could be applied to so many different things. But this is all like context feeding. If you followed what we talk about in auto scripting from our market sauce method, context is everything when it comes to AI. So you need to come into this with an understanding of any context or information that you're bringing to the table out the gate. What is a description of what you're trying to do, sell, offer here? And then like in this case, I need additional context. And so like we host experiential comedy game shows live in Austin, Texas. Okay, I can continue to modify this, but I can also just test my GPT. This looks probably very similar. There's some differences here, but if you've built a custom GPT in Chat GPT, it has a similar sort of setup when you have the ability to test it on the right side and you have the ability to modify the prompts on the left side. And so you can see here, it took all of this context information I gave it, very minimal, but it's scanning the website, it's taking context in, and it's using that as a focal point to then execute this framework. And so if you have, like we talked about the brand blueprints for the PR agency that I work with, like they have a very specific framework that they walk every client through, and they've done this hundreds or thousands of times. I don't know, like they've definitely done it hundreds of times because they have a lot of clients. And they have the same process they walk people through again and again. The amount of time it would take you to go through and go and manually do all of this research and everything, like without AI, is going to take you like more time to do. And so this is getting you these outputs and generations to fill out that specific framework much faster. Okay. So still generating this information right here related to the framework I'm giving it and what I set this particular Pickaxe tool called Quantum Sauce up to be a strategic market analysis, an avatar simulation engine, and an opportunity synthesizer. And so the prime directive for this is to develop a complete, deeply reasoned competitive analysis while simulating buyer persona reactions to messaging, positioning, and strategic choices, uncover hidden opportunities for differentiation, domination, and blue ocean expansion. And so this was a elaborate prompt. It took me some time to put this together using Claude to help me structure this framework and exactly what I wanted to do. And that is something that whole process will reserve for the full deep dive, and I'll be working with Ellen directly on. But getting this whole framework out here is what is being outputted here. And this is like a lot of context. It's a pretty extensive first draft for it. What I really like about Pickaxe in this case is you have the ability to create either a form-based bot or a chat-based bot, which the chat-based is going to be like you're jumping into ChatGPT, you're asking it questions, and it's asking you responses. A form-based is going to be like what we did here, where I gave it information in specified fields, and then it took that as the seed context. But what I can also do is now, once it outputs all of this context, I can then engage in an actual conversational AI, a conversation with the AI, like conversationally, whatever the term people are calling it, like conversational AI to continue to simulate and do what I need to do here. In Ellen's case, it might be walking people through different questions, having a friend. I'm reading what you're going to be building, Ellen, right now. You'll have a friendly AI companion to help you turn your memories, lessons, and dreams into a beautiful legacy storybook, right? And so, like inside the planner, you'll find prompts, spaces for photos, a touch of the radical RX inspiration to ensure this is a joyful reflection for you, and it's your chance to craft a legacy that feels vibrant, personal, and uniquely yours. Okay. So, like, initially, some ideas that come to mind for that, and I'm just talking through this because this thing is, you can see how much content this is generating. It doesn't always have to be this much content, like, at all. It can be a significantly, like, less amount. This is just a pretty intense prompt that I have set up here. But for you, Ellen, we might want to structure the AI chatbot to be a companion that, in your tone of voice, in the way that you want it to be asking and engaging with people, extracting the right questions, helping people like share their story through the conversational bot experience. And then once you can extract all of the stories, the information, the memories, the lessons, the dreams, all that somebody has that you're going to be turning it into this like legacy planner, you can maybe even have the final output. And this is what we'll be working through. What does that final response look like that can help somebody then take that to the next step? In some cases, this stuff might take people like days or weeks or months to put together. But with the right GPT, the right studio, the right questions, the right workflow, we can condense that time down to a much faster line to getting those outputs that we're looking for. And yeah, self-publishing is an upsell. And so, yeah, if you have additional services that you offer through here, that's something that you can incorporate into the book. And so, what we can see, we just went through this entire output that it took for a competitive landscape overview all the way down inside of this GPT. And now I can say, yes, yes, please write the homepage out. And it's going to now continue the conversation with the context in mind. And now it's helping me like literally write copy out for a homepage for this that I could run through Gamma, I could run through Lovable, you could turn it into a website, I could do all kinds of things with this content. But that is how you operate like the development side behind a pickaxe so that people can ultimately end up using it. There's other ways that you can fine tune it with your own specified company knowledge by adding information to a knowledge base. So if I had like our buyer's brief book, for example, and I wanted to give it a certain segment of that book that I wanted it to know, I could give it a PDF or a TXT document of the book in its knowledge base. I could give it a bunch of different files and I can give it settings for how it's pulling that information, how much information is it pulling per the query. This is after you get your prompt in place and you know it's working inside of Claude generally how you want it to work. This is where you end up spending a lot more of the time and making sure that it is using the knowledge and referencing it to give you the most accurate information. And then you can get into more advanced stuff like connecting it to different actions, connecting it to different MCP servers, model context protocol, which is like a way to help the AIs talk to other AI programs, give it different tools. So you're giving like your little AI agent, like GPT, that can do one thing really well, additional resources and different tools that it can use. So if I wanted my tool, which like I just set this one up as an example, I can come into community actions, I can see there's a Google search action that I can do. If I selected this, will give me the ability to like also go and search Google. I also know that Pickaxe is always adding new things to what you can do and add actions. So they recently added Gemini Nano Banana. And so now if I wanted to generate an image, I would just need to go and get my Gemini API key, add that in here, and then I could use Gemini's Nano Banana to start generating images directly inside of my Pickaxe. And you can also create your own MCP servers and do that sort of stuff, which even if you're like a little technically savvy, it can still be a little bit complicated to get set up initially. I'm not going to get into the technical weeds of that right now. But also, if you use Zapier and set up MCP servers with Zapier, I think it's probably the simplest interface for getting MCP tools set up. You can have all of your MCP integrations hosted on Zapier MCP and then give that to your Pickaxe tool and have it do a whole lot more stuff. That was probably a lot of information and felt like a fire hose. If this is your first time getting into Pickaxe, that's cool. This is a platform that takes time to learn, but has so many different use cases and benefits once you understand how to operate inside of a platform like Pickaxe, that you can create your own multiple products, sell access to, or just give free access to people that are already a part of a coaching program or training program, which is how I see a lot of consultants and coaches using GPTs, is not just trying to sell them as one-off tools, but incorporating them inside of a program that's much more transformational with support on how to execute with the GPT. That said, when it comes to actually like sharing this GPT with somebody else, you have the ability to share direct links and access to these GPTs inside of a studio. And that is what I just selected was this studio.pickaxe.co. I just opened up a simple single studio that has a homepage. It has information about this pickaxe. I guess it copied over some of the old like pricing from our other studio. And so I could charge $20 a month for 125 credits a month. I could charge $100 a month for 500 credits a month. You can charge whatever you want. Just you want to make sure that you're not going under for the cost that it takes to generate. And there's information on Pickaxe about how to price these different tools out. But this is how it looks as a custom studio. And so, Ellen, your brand, your vibe, your logo is all going to look different than our little friendly quantum sauce here, right? But the same, like what we just showed in the background is the same type of thing that we can do here. So I'm going to say, so I'm just giving it basic information. I'm not going to run through the entire outputs of this right here, but you can see this is an embedded tool directly in my studio that I can also set up a domain name, submit it, and then I can give free access to this to anybody in the world, unlimited, which I wouldn't recommend because, again, like people start using this and you wouldn't want to gate it at some way so you can at least capture like account information for people that are using your tool. So people use these as lead magnets quite often. You can see it's generating these outputs, right? And so we're not going to walk through this whole one again. It's the same thing we just saw, just in like a more branded like interface like this. I think the really cool stuff we start to get into some of the really cool stuff right here when you're talking about this, not just as a studio here, like this is fine that you can set up your own studio with a Pickaxe domain, but if you go to settings, you can now actually connect a custom domain. And so if I had, and I have done this with our other studio. If I went, okay, I want this to actually be on the custom domain studio.marketsauce.ai. If you go there, you'll go to our own Pickaxe studio that we've made, but this could be studio.ellen.com, right? And then that would be the link that anybody would go to. And when anybody goes to that, they will go to that page that you set up here, but you have the ability to modify and add additional tools and resources into what your pickaxe ultimately looks like. You can edit it at the top right of your studio page. You have a hero section. You can you can remove sections. If I don't want to include any studio plans, I can just move that section. So the only thing that someone does on the homepage, they do that right there. You can save edits. You can add sections depending on how you want your user journey to go. And that's going to be ultimately up to you when you're setting this up. You may want the actual quantum sauce or your main GPT, if it's just one GPT in your studio, you might want that just to be the only page that people go to. And so you can set that directly as, but then as we get into saying, okay, I've got one GPT in my studio, I got one tool that's doing a great job, but now my clients and customers are like, oh, what if we could do something else? Oh, yeah, of course we can do something else. Yeah. So I'm going to make a new pickaxe that can help you do that something else and get better results faster. So now, I don't know, let's just say we're in Pickaxe and we say, oh, all of my students are saying that I don't know how to hit I don't know, I need to write really funny about me pages for my clients because I'm a comedian. Make tool that analyzes a person's website and like you were a comedian, rewrite their about page to be more funny and humorous while also still selling themselves in a business and also making it on brand. Okay, just off the cuff, you can work with Pickaxe. This is a demonstration more of like how you can start to get started with this even without having to go to Claude or like another tool to refine and develop your framework coming into it. Multiple levels that you can go in terms of how deep do you want to or how extensive do you want your frameworks to be like locked in before you come to a Pickaxe studio? Like I will often work more directly inside of a ChatGPT project folder, building out a specific templatized framework, or inside of Claude. I mean, you could use AI as well for this, or in any other large language model. It depends. But you can see I just gave it this prompt. It thought a little bit. I'm creating this new tool. Here's your tool. That looks cool. Now I'm going to show it in the editor. So now what I did, and I went to this middle button right now, may look different depending on how Pickaxe changes their UX down the road. In the editor now, which you just saw a fully built out prompt, but this time it's just a chat. And if I select chat, I can go to form plus chat. I can go to just form. The last one we did was form plus chat. And so if you do form plus chat, you don't just give it a role, you're giving an actual like a prompt frame to follow, which is meaning like I give you input, you give me output like this. So if you have a perfect landing page format that you use all the time with yourself and all of your clients, you're probably going to want to start with a form plus chat, give it information in, and then have it generate that output. But for this, I'm just going to go here. You're a clever, witty, and clever assistant who specializes in reading and understanding about pages. I can have it. I thought this was a cool addition. You can have it use voice inputs. And so if you select that, you notice a little microphone that's appearing on the bottom right of my screen. So now I need you to analyze my about page at playsidehustle.com and help me make it better. Man, I don't know if it should. Yeah, so now this is the building part of these GPTs, which again, like really depends on starting like where do you want this thing to end first? And then based on that outcome and result that we're going for, how do we reverse engineer what questions need to be asked beforehand? And if my specialty was helping people write funny about pages, I'm like, if that was your specialty, or if you have a specialty that you work with clients or do anything, like, okay, what questions you need to have answered to get the best sort of outcomes, right? It's like a few questions. What's the vibe you want? Who's your primary audience? And I'm going over to actions. like I showed you before, I'm going to select Google search. I'm just going to connect it and say, I want you to do all of this research for me and identify what all of these answers are based on your research of my business. Okay. I think everyone has their own style for building GPTs and tools. And again, ultimately, it's going to come back down to it's running a web search now because I gave it access to Google. And I'm just like, hey, go and find and like, how do you think that this is on stuff? And we're going through the building process. Not, I wouldn't say it's generally like the most exciting stuff to just watch like people build the stuff, but it also like is what we do with a lot of our trainings and workshops here. Because as we get our hands dirty, there's a lot of nuances for how you could work and modify your prompts and do that sort of stuff. Search the site, did not return any results. So it's running into some issues here. Again, it's not always going to work perfectly. I thought that it might just go directly to the website and scan it and do that sort of stuff, but I might need to spend a little bit more time here figuring out this workflow if I really wanted it to up like that. So I'm not going to play around with here too much. Just giving you an example of how you can get started building a new GPT very quickly. I publish it. This was the example I was trying to get to. Publish and close. And so now we see humorous about page writer GPT, pickaxes. If I go to my pickaxe folder on the left side, now you can see I have two of these pickaxes inside of my account. This one's unlisted, this one's listed. If I made this one listed, what does that mean? It means that it's going to actually show it on my studio page, which means when I'm going to my website editor, I can actually just click the website directly and voila, let's go. Now you can see my second GPT that I just made appearing inside of my studio. And depending on what you're doing and what you're supporting your clients or your customers with, you might want to have multiple tools that all have a specific sort of purpose and they're trained on their own thing. You could think of them like their own individual, like AI employee type, like resources that will just do these specific tasks for you. There's a lot that can be done on the automation front when, just to jump back into the quantum sauce example, when you go to editing a GPT, when you go to the actions, some of these actions, you can trigger it to send you a summary of somebody did, what the conversation was about. You can trigger it after something happens to send an email to somebody else. You can have it trigger another workflow inside of Zapier or make.com or N8N that will continue the process. And so I'm not going to beat the dead horse too much here again, but it really depends on what's the ultimate goal of what are you trying to accomplish with a workflow that you're building a program around and helping people achieve a certain sort of outcome. And then where does one of these Pickaxe studios fit into it? You can modify the studio details with a name. You can add a picture. This is where some of the customization is. You can actually turn the collect user history off. There are reasons that you may not want to be seeing what your users are saying, and that's totally cool. You can go to access and make it public or private. Private only would be a good case for that would be like you don't want anyone that's not like a paid coaching client of yours to ever even see this stuff. It's supposed to be purely private. So you can do that. You could link your Stripe dashboard to the studio, which means that you can take payments. And Pickaxe takes a cut of Stripe payments if you go directly through here. If you want to figure out how to set up a way to take payments outside of Pickaxe and then give people access to the studios, there are ways to do that too. It does take a little bit more technical setup, but they do have the ability on their settings. If you're on, I think it's if you're on the pro plan, you'll get access to the studio API keys. Maybe I shouldn't be showing that. I don't know if you guys would even be able to do anything with this, but you can add stuff to the header, the footer, confirmation pages, so like tracking codes, things like that. If you're going to be sending traffic to these and want to have Google Analytics and that sort of thing. But down here, you can edit some of the messaging. If you wanted to give this as just a free trial for anybody, one credit will give somebody like the ability to use it once before they needed to create an account. You can have different products and different tiers set up down here. So if I wanted to make this unlimited use for any guest, I would just select the unlimited and save that. And then anybody that's on my Pickaxe Studio can use it unlimited, or the default's 5. And then people have to create an account for free to keep using it after that if you have more credits available. Or, for example, this just cloned the products from our other studio. So products and paywalls, studio, pro agency. If I select the studio account, This will give me the ability to give it a name, give it a description. It's connected with my Stripe. And then this studio locks access to people to use those tools that we just provided. And so all of the tools, given an access to it, subscribe for 20 bucks a month, you get access to all of these tools up to 125 credits being used. But if you wanted to add a different paywall tier, it's as easy as add a new product. Let's call this one basic. Let's just call this like a $1 tier, monthly, visible, unlimited, lock tools, humorous, or it's just in line with the other stuff we did, 10 uses. So you can limit how many times people are able to use your tool before needing to upgrade to another tool. So a little bit of like on the settings and kind of the back end infrastructure for how a studio would get operated. But ultimately, this is what people would be like seeing on display if you had it hosted through Pickaxe. But another reason that I don't want to just forget to talk about on this section is what if you don't want to send people to a Pickaxe studio and you want to send them to your own gated membership portal or a way that you're delivering a course that you can embed tools onto? If I go to Quantum Sauce and I say, it would be really great for me to embed this tool behind a members only section on my like go high level membership or something, or inside of my member stack membership in Webflow or whatever other platform you're using. If I go to create deployment, there's a few options that you'll see pop up here. Embed what? So WhatsApp is relatively new. You can actually connect Pickaxes directly to like a WhatsApp channel. I haven't done that just yet, but I think that's a pretty cool use case. You can do the API. I'm going to open up the embed version first, and this is probably the most applicable that we'll see. Yeah, so you have inline. You have the ability to add it as a chat. You can add it as a pop-up. So I'm going to do the inline, and then you can customize what this inline looks like. And you can embed this onto any sort of landing page that you want. One thing I like also about when you're in here and you're actually going to be doing this stuff and you're setting up your own studio, you can just click the white label button and that's just going to remove any of the Pickaxe branding so that you can just keep it all branded to your brand. You can adjust the styles, the way that, as you can see, like the visual side of it, visual, outlined, drop shadow, make it look cool. Let me see. What else would we want to do here? Email login. So you can add an email login so that people would need to set their email up to just use it in the first place. And then whenever you're ready to save an embed, I didn't title this embed. So say Quantum One. I'm going to just do another example, like how you would very quickly be able to embed this onto something and then share it with somebody inside of a Pickaxe studio. When you select share in the upper right-hand corner, they actually did make a recent integration with Circle. So if you do use Circle for your community, which we used to, but now we're on school, you can actually embed these directly into Circle posts, which is like a pretty cool use case. I hope they have more integrations with them. I'm sure they will with other platforms. But now I can copy this code and I'm just going to open up Lovable because I'll use them for quick landing page builds. I'll say, create a one-page landing page, create a one-page landing page with the headline Quantum Sauce and this embed below, and then have a big flashing green neon sign that says try Quantum Sauce for free. Make sure it's cool green and black color scheme like the Matrix. Use this embed code and add a really cool green glow around it. And then below it, give people the ability to go to studio.marketsauce.ai with a button that says subscribe to Market Sauce. Just having some fun here, where if you wanted to demonstrate, or if you wanted to like actually send this to somebody outside of like your Pickaxe studio and just embed it, like vibe coding tools like Lovable, Bolt, Replit, all that stuff, you could just whip up really quick landing pages with it and have it design that landing page, and then you could send that out. The takeaway here is that once you are setting up on Pickaxe, you can create, I don't know if there's a limit to deployment. You can create dozens of different versions of these deployments and then apply those and embed those in different areas, like if you wanted to. I would recommend starting which is as simple as possible on the deployment side. But now you have the studio right here, which anytime that somebody uses this deployment, you'll actually see how many people are using it and where they're using it at. Any questions? We got about 10 minutes left on this power hour, getting started with your Pickaxe studio. I hope it's like at least a little clear about once you have a Pickaxe account, how to get started with a studio. Once you're in Pickaxe, if you don't have any, you can start just a new Pickaxe which will just give you the ability to make one single solo pickaxe, but you want to add it to a studio. It's going to ask you to select what studio you want to add it to. So your first step is going to be make a studio first. Ellen's studio, Russell's studio, Andrew's studio, whatever it is. Call it your brand name, make a studio, give it a name, create that studio, and it's doing that. But holy cow, that's pretty cool. And so now I've made my embedded one-page landing page in Lovable. I see a question, Eric, if you want to go ahead and ask it in the chat, or if you want to come off, that's fine. I'm just going to share this like last little embedding, how to share this out, because you can make this blend in much more to what the vibe of whatever landing page you're working on is. But when you open it, and again, this is a Lovable example. There we go. Look at that. I can give it the document. It's going to take the document. It actually embedded that studio link. So you see, like you could link that back to anything else. You can give people a free taste of what you do. Here's your free evaluation report. Here's your free interactive quiz, yada, yada. But then now I'm clicking submit. It's loading it. It's actually a cool vibe right here. It's loading. Maybe it's being a little slow. We'll see. There we go. And so now it just took the inputs, and now we have our chat interface, which obviously I'd want to center it. I'd want to tweak this up a little bit more, but a very quick way that I could get a simple landing page up that just gives people direct access to whatever this is. And all of that can be done in Pickaxe. And the customization options are nearly limitless. If there's any type of custom GPT you've ever wanted to make, you could probably build that into Pickaxe and then license it, gate it, monetize it, give it away for free, whatever your heart desires. Eric, you
Hi,
had a
Bobby.
question.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm fantastic, brother. Fantastic. You may have covered this, but with agents, because I don't know if I heard it from you or someone else, but agents, there's a difference between an agent and a chatbot. So agents talk to other agents, can have them do things. Does Pickaxe do that? Are you aware? If you covered it, please forgive me. I
No,
don't
no,
think
no.
we've ever
I'm
talked
not sure
about
if we
that.
covered, we haven't really dug into the agentic side of Pickaxe here today, but one thing you can do, and maybe this will give you an idea about, I think there's a lot of mixed definitions of what an AI agent is in general right now.
Sure.
And so when we're talking about, I think of a Pickaxe tool as its own individual GPT, it can do like one task like specifically very well. What you can do is start to, and there's probably other, and I'm not saying Pickaxe might is probably not going to replace like every platform that you're building like AI tools with, but let me open up another studio to see if I can, actually, I might be able to do this in here. When you have a studio, one thing that Pickaxe now allows you to do, which I think is a little bit more on like the useful agentic side, is when I click my edit Pickaxe here, actions. So now you can see in this studio, I have this one agent, Quantum Sauce, but now it's highlighting our other actions here. And so if I click this action, I can trigger this action with this action specifically being another GPT that I built, a chatbot that analyzes user websites. Trigger prompt. When a conversation appears to have finished, use the humorous about page writer tool. And so when we're talking about can one Pickaxe GPT talk to another Pickaxe GPT, the answer is yes. And humorous about page writer tool could be like one AI like agent that is just locked in at writing an about page and writing humorous about pages. I could have this trigger prompt be anytime a user asks for writing or improving their about page on their website in any way, access this GPT to create the outputs to give the user inside of the quantum sauce conversation. And so this trigger prompt instruction will then signal this pickaxe to go and like trigger that GPT that I built in this studio and then extract and use the framework that I've trained it. And so that if this was like, hey, anytime the user wants to create a new offer, run it through the $100 million offer GPT, and maybe you build one of those into your own studio. And so it uses those frameworks for its outputs. But you could get really creative with this because one of your other pickaxes could just be, hey, this pickaxe is designed to take your content and then go and trigger the Blotato API to post this content to your social media channels and then go and do that action specifically. Like in that sense, I think I think of it as being like taken that way, but it takes orchestration on the user side to know how that your studio and your pickaxes would communicate with each other. Is that clear? Is that kind of what you were asking, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was perfect. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you for answering that. And my last good question will, I believe, was there in the classroom, will there be something on Pickaxe, or is that on one of the other paid levels that you have? Because I need to go through it and
Yeah,
check
I
on
would
everything.
recommend because we haven't done the Pickaxe Mastery workshop yet. That is either we're gonna do that in December or we're gonna do that in January. We were thinking about doing a Claude Mastery workshop series in December, but I think with these implementation power hours, we may be able to cover both and have them make sense to do. For now, while we don't have the pick section fully built out in the community, we do have a series of training videos on our YouTube channel. So if you go to the GenAI University YouTube channel, let me see where it is right now. Yeah, if you go to GenAI or youtube.com/at GenAI, and you end up on our YouTube channel, and then you go down to some of the Scale with AI Summit series, because that's one of the more recent Pickaxe trainings that we did with the founder. You'll find this one, Build AI Tools Fast, how founders leverage AI to turn their expertise into profits. And this is a pretty good like starting point for a description of kind of what Pickaxe can do and all that stuff from Nathaniel, who's the Pickaxe founder. And then we also have a few other trainings on our channel that will go into other Pickaxe uses and getting started there. So I would just say go to our YouTube channel and search some of the content on there to kind of get started on that front. But I am planning on doing at least one kind of three-part workshop series to, like for Pickaxe Mastery as either in December or January so that we can support people even more. And so information on when that is going to be live will be inside of our school community, which I think everyone here is in. But if you're not, geniu.com/school, SKOOL. We are here at the top of the hour. I do have another call I got to hop for in just a few minutes, but I want to open the floor for any final questions. Was this helpful and useful for seeing what Pickaxe can do? And Ellen, congratulations again for winning the auction. I will be reaching out to you here this afternoon, and we will get things underway to start building your own custom AI studio with Pickaxe. And other than that, y'all, it's great to see everybody here. As always, keep combing AI on. See y'all on the other side.